Let's get reaction now from the business community. I'm joined by Willox, Chief Executive of the Australian Industry Group. Good to talk to you again, Ines. Did this one catch you by surprise, or did you know the unions were pushing for this, or did the headlines shock you this morning?
I was talking to one of them a couple of days ago, and it sort of got dropped into a conversation, and I honestly thought they were joking, Chris. And so I didn't pay much attention to it at all. And then it popped up this morning, and it was sort of gobsmacking, but it was also the bottom of the barrel in a whole range of sort of, as you said, wild and wacky ideas that have been put forward for the summit next week. You know, if the unions had their way, you know, they'd say everything is an employer's fault when it comes to productivity, more tax on our exports. They want more pay for everyone without any return, and they want people to work less. You put all that together as a package, it's a pretty sobering and sombre picture for Australia, and demonstrates a complete lack of knowledge around the predicament we're in, but also what productivity actually is. And the Reserve Bank yesterday cut its forecast on productivity growth in Australia for a very good reason, and that is that we're going backwards. And, you know, it was really a statement of reality. And what we have to try to do next week is to turn the ship around. And crazy ideas like this are not helpful, particularly when the government has been very clear through this process for their reasons. They don't want to discuss workplace relations at this summit. That's fair enough. That's their call. That's their summit. But all we've heard from the ACTU are proposals that would fundamentally change how we work, what we work for, and how we do it. And I'm really pleased the Prime Minister and the Treasurer have just knocked this on the head very quickly. But you know how these things work. Once they're put out into the public square, they percolate away. And I think that was part of the rationale behind this. Exactly.
It's a bit of a soft launch, if you like. Here's a little bit more of what the union movement had to say.
All the independent studies into it show you that it's really good for working people and for businesses, and it's good for a few reasons. It's good because workers' performance improve. They're healthier. They're more likely to stay in the job. They're less likely to get burnt out.
Yeah, I mean, essentially arguing black is white there. Somehow the doing less is going to be good for productivity. Now, I've got to say, I thought it was pathetic that a newly elected government had to have this summit to find an agenda. But to give them credit, I thought the idea of a productivity roundtable at least showed that they understood the core of the problem. We need to become more productive. Do you think changing the name to an economic roundtable is a signal that they're not up for that productivity challenge, because it would necessarily actually mean tackling the unions, trying to reduce some of the the labour market restrictions in this country?
Well, you're only going to get a productivity uplift in Australia if you tackle the core of the productivity problem, and that is that our systems are too convoluted, we're overly taxed, we're overly regulated, we're not competitive internationally. And then you look at the root causes of that, and a lot of that comes back to workplaces where the unions try to hold sway. And I think the government has sort of been inundated with submissions, over 830 submissions with all sorts of ideas. That's fair enough. But what you want out of this, I hope, I'm really optimistic and hope that we'll get some clear directions around how we can tackle some of these problems around the complexity, around cost. How do we simplify things? How do we get stuff built more quickly in Australia? You know, how do we as a country function and operate in a rapidly changing world? New technology, changing trading landscape, geopolitics, geoeconomics are changing rapidly. You know, what got us to this point, and we've been pretty lucky, not called the lucky country for nothing, is not going to guarantee success going forward. And that's why we're talking about declining living standards. So let's get real. Let's tackle some of the root causes. And I hope through this round table that we're able to at least start to dig out some of the big causes of our productivity and our economic malaise and point the government in a direction, and the opposition too, to start to tackle these issues.
Let's hope so, Ines. It's long overdue. I appreciate your time. Ines Willox there from the Australian Industry Group, and we'll keep tabs on exactly what unfolds next week. Let's hope something useful comes out of it all.